Hello everybody, Ketshi1383 with Ketshi Gaming. So today I want to talk about the Mario movie. I just got back from the movie theater maybe half an hour ago. So I want to go over this while the movie's still fresh. And I might watch it again and maybe do a second take on it. So I want to start about some rumors I heard that they wanted to more or less do what Hollywood's been doing and make a girl boss movie using Princess Peach, which would have been a huge mistake when you're trying to make a movie about Super Mario Brothers. You're not making the Super Peach movie, you're making the Super Mario Brothers movies. Seems pretty obvious. And Nintendo put their foot down and told them no. But you can definitely see there are parts of this movie where its borderline crosses that point. It almost does. I will admit that there's some things that Peach does that are a little bit too fantastic. Now, as much as I hate to engage in apologetics, there are explanations for this, and I will touch on them. I'm not going to do any major spoilers, but I think there are some things I do need to talk about. And the other part I was worried about when I was going into this movie was whether or not it was going to be a fan service the movie, similar to that of Endgame, which Endgame just had way too much of it. And I honestly don't like Endgame. That's a totally different conversation. So with those two things out of the way, let's talk about the movie itself. Visually, this movie is amazing. I'll give it that. It is well animated. And it definitely has some well-voiced characters, along with some very nice sound effects throughout the whole entire movie. Now, I wouldn't say that the Mario games are famous for their story. They're actually rather basic and bare bones. It's kind of a philosophy of Shigeru Miyamoto to put gameplay over story. So it's not like you can really make a comparison between the games and the movie. I guess it's serviceable. I mean, it managed to entertain me for 90 minutes, so I would say it's kind of comparable to probably the second Sonic movie in terms of quality, maybe actually slightly better than that. So, this is definitely an origin story for Mario and Luigi and how they landed in the Mushroom Kingdom. It starts off in Brooklyn, and if any of you ever received any of the Mario marketing material, either via text or email, or even watch some of the YouTube videos, they use that commercial and it actually makes an appearance in the movie. And the one thing that people were complaining about was that he didn't sound like Mario, like his higher pitched, "It's a me, a Mario" kind of thing. And they were definitely acknowledging that with this commercial, at least in parts of it. And I'm kind of under the impression that Chris Pratt probably spent a little bit more time in the sound booth, because I think he definitely sounds different than what he did in the trailers. A little less like Chris Pratt just voicing Mario and more like him actually playing a character. I could just be imagining that, but that's what it seems like to me. So, there's also a whole bunch of references throughout the whole entire movie, and in this part of the movie, after they come out of the commercial, they have an arcade cabinet in the background with a guy playing it who sounds typically like Mario, and I'm guessing that is the cameo for the voice actor for Mario right now in the video games. And he's playing on a game called Jumpman, which is Mario's nickname. I'm not going to get too specific with these. If I did that, there'd just be no end of this video of what references were where. Maybe that's something when it comes out on DVD or something like that, and I can go through it scene by scene. Anyways, they started their own plumbing business, and the man they are working for is in the restaurant with them, and he starts mocking them and threatening them. And they have this weird moment. I shouldn't say weird. It's very reminiscent of Captain America, and I have no doubt this was influential or even kind of just a weird copycat, in which Mario, who's much smaller, stands up to this huge guy. And Luigi's like, yeah, he's 4 times bigger than you are. It definitely rang bells in terms of referencing or maybe copying the similar scene from Captain America with the alley near the movie theater. Anyways, they get their first call for the business. They go and they kind of sort of botch it up. They don't really botch it up. Someone else botches it up for them, but it looks really bad on their part and it's considered a failure. And they go back to their home where you see his family, which is a little weird to see the Mario Brothers family. And I don't know if any of them are named Giuseppe. They didn't really say what their names are, and if they were in the credits, I totally missed it. So his mom, his pop, I guess his grandfather, and either another sibling or maybe uncles or something like that. There's 2 other Mario characters. 3 actually, if you count the grandpa. And I don't know what their names are. Completely and totally irrelevant. The only part about it was he was served pasta with mushrooms in. He's like, ugh, I hate mushrooms. Leading to the obvious joke that's going to come later. His father kind of berates him, and he goes up to his room and he plays an NES and he's playing Kid Icarus. With Luigi coming in to join him. And then they turn on the news and Brooklyn's in trouble. And now, during this newscast, they show Paulina, which I'm not sure if this is supposed to be a reference. Because Paulina is supposed to be in the Mushroom Kingdom, not in the actual real world. I don't know. I don't know. It just I'm not sure if it's supposed to be real, like in the real world, or if it's just supposed to be sort of a cameo. Anyways, they see this as their big break to save Brooklyn and get some notoriety for saving them. So they show up to the spot where this giant leak is in the middle of the road, and Mario knows where just to go. In the process of trying to fix it, he makes it worse again. Not intentionally, but he ends up falling down a series of pipes, and they find this giant underground area just covered in pipes. And Luigi passes by a very big, huge green pipe, and it sucks him in. It's not like what they have in the games where you sort of just go through it. And this is how they enter the Mushroom Kingdom, or maybe the world of Mario. And they get separated while in this weird sort of magical pipe dimension. Now, the one thing I'm going to complain about is the pacing of this movie. It is on the fast side, and it only gets faster from here. And it feels like certain scenes they could have easily cut out and added more stuff to it that was actually relevant. Like, they could have cut out maybe half of the Brooklyn stuff. And there's one scene, I'm just going to talk about it now because I'm trying to make an example, is Bowser. And I feel like this is because of Jack Black and not so much because it was even relevant or even funny. But he's singing a number where he's sort of obsessing over Peach. And it goes on for way too long, and it's actually really, really pointless. They could have cut out that whole entire section of the movie, and it would not have made a difference. And like I said, it kind of feels like it's because of Jack Black, because he's a bit of a musician. Anyways, Toad eventually gets Mario to Peach's castle, and he's going through the castle. And it's a little weird to see the Toads wearing helmets and carrying halberds. I can't really think of any Mario game that has that. I could be wrong. The closest I think might be Mario RPG, but I don't think so. Anyways, the 2 Toads guarding the front door make a sort of reference joke to the original Mario series, saying maybe our princess is in another castle, because that's what happens at the end of every world you come across when you beat the castle, and that's what the Toad always says until you actually get to the end of the game and actually rescue Peach, which I guess she was called Toadstool back then, but whatever. Anyways, as he sneaks into the castle while Toad distracts the other Toads, he comes across Peach and she just slams him to the ground. And this is one of those borderline girl boss moments, as they like to say. a woman showing up a male character. It's borderline, but it's not that bad. It wasn't like Mario was actually trying to fight her or anything like that. So if anyone's like, yeah, total girl boss move, not really, but borderline. Anyways, she then takes him to an obstacle course and she performs it. And she is completely and totally flawless while being completely and totally amazing at it. This is definitely girl boss. And this is one of those parts where you can tell that it was a remnant of this idea of making Peach the super main character, Rey Skywalker kind of esque character for the Mario Brothers movie. And they kind of tried to wash it off by implying that she grew up in this world, so she's used to doing all the running, jumping, and stuff with the power-ups and stuff like that. Also, an attempt to make Mario feel better about not being able to complete the course. Anyways, she wants Mario to complete this course in order for her to bring him along on her adventure. So remember the part where Mario says he doesn't like mushrooms? Well, she's like, here's power-ups. This is how you do everything. And she gives him a mushroom. And they joke about it for maybe just a touch too long about him eating the mushroom before she just shoves it down his face and he gets bigger. Then it shows a montage of him making attempt after attempt, learning to do the course. Basically learning to do Mario things as Mario. Kind of like how a kitten learns how to be a cat. Now, the one part about this movie that I would sort of object to was its use of popular music. So while they were playing this montage, for example, they were playing Holding Out for a Hero. Kind of like what Shrek did in the second movie? Yes, the second movie. So unfortunately, because this is a Mario movie, this was out of place. Sure, it elicited a chuckle, but it didn't feel right to have this kind of music in a Mario game. I mean, they have orchestral music throughout the whole entire movie, and at times they just pull up some music number from some song in the past or some other song that's usually used for whatever scene, and it feels out of place. I mean, there's a rich history of Nintendo using orchestral music for everything, even the Mario games. And it's just a shame that they went with this or allowed this to happen. So Peach takes Mario with her on her way to the Kongs in order to get them to help her by sending over their soldiers. And they want them to help them fight Bowser as he's coming towards the Mushroom Kingdom. In a very short amount of time, it's just like a couple of days. Like I said, the pacing in this movie is extremely fast. The journey to Kong Island, they have maybe one scene with Luigi, which you've probably seen in the trailers with the Sprite, and then a scene of them outside where Peach grabs a fire flower and starts a fire, and he talks about, I've never been separated from my brother for this long, sort of establishing this connection between the two. And then they're just at the Kong Kingdom, and they knock on the door, and a big, huge gorilla opens it up, and he takes them in a cart and races around. Not quite a Mario Kart racing cart, but close enough. So they go before Cranky Kong, who they made king instead of, I guess, sort of a hobo out in a shack in the middle of the jungle in comparison to what they had him do in the Super games. That's Super NES, by the way, not just because they're super. It kind of felt like he was similar to King Louie from the Jungle Book-ish. Just a bit. Anyways, they go through the whole entire trope of if you can beat our champion, you can have our army, in which the champion is Donkey Kong and Mario has to face him. So oddly enough, the fights are actually some of the areas in which they slow down just a little bit. And they have Mario get the snot beaten out of him by Donkey Kong up until a part where he grabs a cat suit. And I'll admit, I love the cat suit in the games. And it's probably the best power-up ever. There's no argument there. And using this suit, he's able to defeat Donkey Kong. So in order to get back to the Mushroom Kingdom in time, they take a secret path, which unfortunately doesn't seem to be a secret to anybody. But first, they have their carts built. And again, they use another song that feels out of place. And it's kind of obvious from, yet again, all the trailers that this secret path is the Rainbow Road. And again, when I said I was a little afraid they might be doing a little bit too much fan service, I'd have to say the use of Rainbow Road was definitely a little too much use of fan service. It wasn't quite Mario Kart. It was definitely a lot more action-packed. And also, let's go back to that. It's not so secret to anybody because apparently Bowser had spies everywhere and they knew exactly where the secret path was. So they were able to ambush them, thinking that they were going to ambush Bowser. It's not quite a secret if everybody knows about it. So this action scene, again, they seem to slow down for the action scenes, but everything in between just goes at a blinding fast pace. Yes, they have scenes with Luigi in between them, and they're few and far between if you ask me, but I guess the action scenes are what people are probably going to want to see in this movie. So I think I kind of get it. And this part actually feels like a little bit of Mad Max, I'm not going to lie. So I just remembered I kind of skipped a little bit of an important scene with Bowser. And actually probably one of the better use of music in the game that technically not orchestral, but is in a Mario game. And they're partying after he got the Superstar from the Ice Kingdom. And they're playing rock music. The rock music they are playing is from Bowser's Fury. And I felt like this was actually a good use of not only fan service, but the music as well. It wasn't like they added it in just because they wanted to make a reference. It actually fit in with the whole entire moment in the scene. Anyways, Bowser's plan is to go to the Mushroom Kingdom in order to get Peach to marry him. Or to ask her to marry him. And if she says no, he'll destroy her kingdom. That's basically the gist of the plot. It's a trope that's been used before. It's been done better. It's been done worse as well. So it's not bad in this movie. So anyways, let's get back to Rainbow Road. Again, they sort of do this weird plot point. And I guess a way to... I don't know what they were sort of trying to do with it. Other than the reference. And one of the Koopa Troopas, who was driving a big huge vehicle that was smashing other vehicles in the way, has wings and he goes blue shell, forms spikes on a shell, zooms and hits Mario while he's on Donkey Kong's cart. The only problem I have with this is that Princess Peach was in the lead and everyone knows the blue shell goes after those who are in the lead, in which case they could have had maybe a bit of a hero moment for him, pushing her out of the way so the shell would hit him since she's technically in first for all intents and purposes. But nope, they just had it target Mario, blowing up Rainbow Road and causing the Kong army to be captured. This also leads to one of the scenes that you see in the trailers where Peach more or less gets captured as well, saying she'll marry Bowser, which leads to a scene that basically she's getting ready for her wedding and Toad obviously hands her something that's going to be used to power her up. And again, it kind of feels like a girl boss moment, unfortunately, where they have her holding off tons of minions along with completely immobilizing Bowser. Don't get me wrong, visually it was actually really neat, and if it was done for any other reason, I would say that's fine, but since I kind of can see what they were trying to do, it kind of disturbs me just a little bit. It doesn't really affect it too much, but you can see the signs of what they wanted to do, and they're definitely there, and this is another one of those moments. She does fail, which I guess does take away from the girl boss moment, but something tells me they were forced to put that moment in because they needed Mario to show up. Anyways, Donkey Kong and Mario go through the Mushroom Kingdom town, and they use various power-ups, and Mario gets a hold of a Tanuki suit. This part would have been better, if they didn't just blatantly copy Tails or Tails is, I don't know how, whatever the possess of a Tails is, as in Tails the character from Sonic the Hedgehog, when he spins his tail to fly, they did that with the Tanuki suit. Don't need to do that with the Tanuki suit. Should have just had it behind him as he flew. Don't know why they did that. Feels kind of lazy and kind of derivative. Other than that, it was actually a pretty amazing scene, well choreographed in terms of its action. So at this point, Bowser is completely and totally furious with Mario and Peach and everybody else and orders the Bonsai Bill to be shot. So anyone who doesn't know, a Bonsai Bill is a giant bullet bill. And he's going to use it to destroy the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario ends up stopping it, and they have this whole entire scene of him flying away from it, where he eventually finds the green pipe he came through and leads the bullet bill into said pipe. It then explodes, pulling everybody within a certain area back into Brooklyn. Now, this felt a little derivative because it feels like they did the exact same thing that they did in the 1993 movie. They did it better, but it feels like they copied it. And if anything, I would have tried to avoid any plot pointer scene from that movie. And you could have had the exact same thing happen in the Mushroom Kingdom and not had it in Brooklyn, and it wouldn't have made a difference. So I will say that one thing. They finally gave Luigi a moment in the movie. And it was actually well done. And they have a scene where it ends on a really good note with the Mario Brothers establishing who they are and that they're capable of taking out Bowser's army. And I definitely like this scene. But like I said, it felt like it probably would have been better if they kept it in the Mushroom Kingdom instead of doing it in Brooklyn. And this is where I'd also say they sort of took Peach down a couple notches by having her take on Bowser directly without power-ups. And she was definitely losing, along with Donkey Kong. And they definitely ended the movie on a good note by having the Mario Brothers be the heroes and taking out both Bowser and his minions. So overall, it was definitely a fun, entertaining movie. And it's definitely worth a first watch. And I might go see it a second time, because usually I glean more after watching it. And I might change my mind on certain scenes after seeing it a second time. But it is a very fast-paced movie where they seem to be in a hurry to get to action scenes. And I guess, yes, it is sort of geared towards children, and they don't want to bore them too much with slow content that maybe someone older might enjoy. I would say there are quite a few fan service moments, and in some cases to the detriment of the movie. Nothing that really seriously affects the plot or the overall entertainment of it. It's just blatantly obvious. And some of these moments served absolutely zero purpose whatsoever. They were just in there because reference. And I think being animated is probably part of that, because it costs money, a lot of money to animate. So I'm guessing they were trying to minimize how much they needed to do and still keep it at 90 minutes. If I were them, I would get rid of the Bowser singing portion. Wasn't funny, served zero purpose. And honestly, the Brooklyn scene at the beginning, other than being derivative of that of Captain America, it felt like you could reduce the amount of time they spent in Brooklyn. You didn't even need the parents in it. I don't even know why, other than maybe one portion of a 60-second scene with Donkey Kong and Mario. Now, I guess there's some things to note I did sort of miss. Diddy Kong and Dixie Kong are in the movie, mainly just as cameos, that's it. And the one scene they did have between Peach, Toad, and Mario when they were on their way to see the Kongs wasn't really all that important. It sort of felt like they were kind of trying to set something up for the future in terms of the NCU, as in the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. And not so much because it actually had any plot point or even importance to the plot overall. So I tried not to go into too much detail, and I honestly didn't. So I had to go take care of a few things, but while I was thinking about the movie, there's some things I definitely think they should have done or could have done better. So let's take Bowser's basically flying kingdom at this point. They call it a ship in the movie. It's his whole entire castle. And I honestly think they should have maybe did a fleet of airships like they had in Mario 3 and had one big airship for Bowser instead of just having this whole entire kingdom floating through the air. I think that would have been better overall and more in line with the games themselves. And now, as much as I don't like engaging in apologetics or even seeming like I'm engaging in it, as for Peach, yes, she was a little bit too capable at times, and you can see their desire to make her girl boss poking through just a little bit. I don't have anything against Peach. She is literally in the games as a playable character in Mario 2, which came to Japan eventually. In Mario 3D World, she is a playable character without being the damsel in distress for the plot of the game. She's in Mario RPG as well, and she's fighting alongside Mario. Yes, you kind of do get her after rescuing her from another wedding scene, I might add, which they also used in Odyssey. A few plot points they seem to have borrowed heavily from, including costumes. I think just tone down her capabilities a little bit, and she would be a much better character, along with the attitude that comes with having such superior skills. They definitely could have done some things better, like use their own music, maybe reduce the Brooklyn scenes, because I just found those kind of pointless. And like I said, you could cut half of the Brooklyn scene out. Actually, probably even more than that, and it would not have made a difference in this movie. Get rid of the music numbers from Bowser. That served zero purpose and wasn't all that great or entertaining. I mean, other than those issues I have, the movie was fun. It was entertaining. It was, for the most part, well done. And if you are a Mario fan, it's at least worth seeing it once. And if you have kids, you're probably gonna take them and they're gonna love it. If you made it this far into the video, thank you for watching. I'm gonna leave you with a little bit of a spoiler warning here, because there's something I did want to cover. And there is an end credit scene. There's actually two. The second one, I don't know if it's supposed to be alluding to a sequel. I'm pretty sure there's going to be one. But the problem that I have with it is that they got it from another terrible 90s movie. Godzilla 1997. They have Yoshi in the bottom of the sewers where they found the portal, or I mean the green pipe that led to the Mushroom Kingdom. And they have him sitting there like they had at the end of Godzilla 1997, hatching, even with the screen turning black and him going, Yoshi! Like when they had Godzilla hatch and had him make the noise as he hatched on a black screen. If there's something you don't want to emulate, it's Godzilla 1997.